3:28 a.m.
So I am progressing up Shinra Tower.
Okay.
I'm inside. I think I reached the 60th floor.
So you probably just done either the elevators or the stairs?
The elevator.
Always stairs, right?
I couldn't find the stairs.
It's just off to the side of the big door.
It's just off to the side of the big door.
Which big door?
Oh. It's funny because like I went up there, I went to the right side and I was like, oh, this is a dead end, so I'll just explore this little area. And then I went back to the middle and I was like, oh, well, here is the elevator, so I'll just take the elevator. And then I assumed the other side was a dead end as well. I don't know why.
If you're no further and you have a save, I'd recommend just doing the stairs, just to see the scene as well, because you know they're going to make a scene for the stairs and for the elevator.
Does it get exciting at floor 69?
Oddly enough,
Yeah.
shut the fuck up. And yes.
Yes. Weirdly, yes.
That's pretty much actually where it all goes down.
Yeah.
I never noticed this. Oh no.
We were too young and innocent when this game first came out.
Before we begin, the Gamers Advocate would like to remind you that any episode could contain game spoilers, so watch or listen with discretion. And now your hosts, AMKomnenos, Banana, and Legion. Enjoy the show.
Welcome on into yet another Gamers Advocate podcast.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, of course you were. But today we are going to be talking about comfort games. Comfort games is a topic where I was leaning toward calling it there's Com in his emo state. I originally was going to go with like a cozy thing, but at the same time, Com was like, no, I have a lot of games that I go back to that aren't necessarily cozy by themselves. So it kind of makes sense for us to say, games that we kind of go back to when we're just wanting something to feel good at the time. I know for me, I sometimes will go to Mass Effect when I've had COVID because I can't think straight. Like when I've had COVID in the past, my mind is just a blur. I can't think straight for more than 5 minutes. But for whatever reason, I probably because of all the times I've played Mass Effect, I can blindly play Mass Effect and have no problems. But it at least gets me off of whatever I've been doing, because all I'm doing is sitting around going crazy and drinking fluids. So it actually kind of helps me at the time when I've been in those states. And it's odd because any other game, I swear, even if it's just like an isometric game, I can get like with COVID, I get these weird motion effect type issues. I don't know if it's a screen or something. I don't know what's going on. But with Mass Effect, I don't have any of that. And it's just probably because I just know it so well. So anyway, that's my kind of like go-to game that I've gone to in the past. I'm sure we'll bring up several others, but Com, do you have any off the top of your head?
Yeah, and I think you really actually hit the nail on the head with it's a game I think comfort game, you might find sort of a comfort genre, which would be a style of game that you feel I can go to at almost any time. You can give me a new JRPG, or you can give me a new RPG, or you can give me a new strategy game or a 4X, and I'll try it. But a real comfort game, there's something more to it, isn't there? You probably have a familiarity with it already. It probably transports you in some way, just in your feelings, to a place where you're relaxed and easy and you haven't got to worry too much. The difficulty is probably not that high. And for me, there's a whole family of them, and they're all different games, so I don't have a genre that I go to, but I do have a handful of games that I go to. And I think the biggest one that would be a game that's been ever present, really, for me, that I can always go back to, and it's one of a series, and it's the Civilization games. If I just want to settle in for a day, and I want a game that I can approach in a way that I've discussed before, like an episode of Friends, I'm just going to sit down, and this session on Civilization is going to start now. It's going to finish in 8 hours' time. And before that, nothing's going to change. After that, nothing's going to have been changed. I'm just going to have spent this 8 hours playing Civilization. it's a one and done. I think I've never reloaded a Civ save the next day or the next week. It just doesn't appeal to me. I don't want to. Because the first 100 turns are the best anyway. Everything after that is just, okay, let's just automate this until I win.
Yeah.
But Civ is a nice...
Slowly bleed these enemies and drag this out as long as possible.
Yeah, which is the great joy of Civ, is that after about 3 hours, you know who's going to win. And it's me.
And the game lasts 14 hours.
We don't need to finish it. We just need to get to a certain distance. So me, Civ will always be a good, safe option. I want to relax. I want to have fun. And it's an ever-present that runs on just about any machine. And if you can't run the modern one, you can probably run the old one. And if you do really want to dive in and have a full gaming experience, it's got loads of just interesting DLC that add interesting and new mechanics to the game. So it's customizable to the extent that it can be as simple or as difficult as you want it to be. It's got that lovely range of difficulty options as well. You can alter the game's speed, so you can be done in 2 hours or you can be done in 20. I think it's the perfect comfort game for me because it's always there, always available. Civilization series.
For me, with the Civilization, I didn't find it to be a game that I could come back to as a comfort game until they added the cultural win. Because it was always like domination or I can't remember the other one. Like it wasn't religious.
A space race was a big one.
Space race, yeah. And so once they added the cultural one, I was like, oh, now I can like, entertain the arts. I can go that direction. As long as my people are fed, we're going to be good. So I just want coastal cities. So it was one of those that I didn't find I didn't find it as a comfort game or something that it was like, because it was more tactical to me until they added the cultural win. And at that point, it was like, oh, okay, I can sit back and have fun with this.
That's something I think we're going to find across this is, I think generally we have quite similar tastes. Broadly speaking, we do. We like a lot of the same things, the same style of things. Ours might line up. These aren't going to line up for most people. Your comfort games are going to be so different from person to person. It's like there's a friend of mine who she streams on Twitch, and when she doesn't know what to play, she just says, like, oh, well, I'll just play Mortuary Assistant for an hour. I can't imagine anything worse. I don't want to do that. That sounds vile. But for her, that's just, okay, well, I know this really well, so I can go that, I can play, I can jump around. People play Demonologist instead of Phasmo. It's the same thing. Just our idea of what's comfortable varies so wildly. But I'm curious how much we're going to agree. But outside of that, in the wider world and in the comment section, I think people will have completely varied approaches to what comfort actually is.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I definitely understand the viewpoint of people who will disagree with me on this one, because like a lot of the games that I find myself going back to and replaying and treating as my comfort games, that kind of like that weird sanctuary where it's just like I get to separate myself from the world and I just get completely immersed in what I'm doing. They're weirdly tedious. I don't know why, because tedium is something I hate in like every other aspect of my life, but in video games, a lot of the stuff I really seem to enjoy is the repetitive stuff. So like going in and grinding combat in a Final Fantasy game, or going in into House Flipper and just doing the same renovations over and over and over again. It's weirdly comforting, and I think it's that I know all of it. I know all of the rules. I know how to succeed. I feel in control in those spaces. So the tedium isn't grating. It's not this abrasive, like, oh, I have to do this. It's like this, I am in control. I choose to do this. I'm embracing the tedium myself. And I fully expect people to just be like, that's stupid. Why are you doing tedious things?
For me, I completely agree with like the grinding aspects of like a JRPG. Like I love to turn on, if I really haven't got the time to have a full gaming session, I like to turn on Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy or Tales, whatever, for half an hour and just, okay, well, I'm not going to progress the story, but I will run in circles in this area, fight the same enemies over and over, grind a level, maybe listen to a podcast for half an hour and just not really think about what I'm doing. And it does become relaxing. I think it's the important thing is I think the knowledge that makes something comfortable. You're not going to be comfortable with something you don't know, with something you're unfamiliar with. And think of it like the best hotel room, right? Imagine there's an amazing hotel room and it's got the best bed and it's got these beautiful pictures on the walls and everything's comfy and it's the perfect temperature. But it's your first night there and you don't quite know it. So you're probably going to wake up once, maybe twice, just because it's an unfamiliar place. And 3 or 4 days, okay, it's different now. Now it's comfortable. But you've got to get that knowledge first.
Right. Yeah, I think that analogy is definitely pretty helpful in this context, because you think of those things where like you're in a new environment and in that hotel room and like maybe there's an air conditioner or something that kicks on every few hours and you hear it the first night and you're like, what the fuck is that? And then by night 7 you're like, the comforting noises of the air conditioner. Like what was an inconvenience on day 1 is now comforting on day 7.
Yeah, well, honestly, at this point now, when I hear my neighbors fucking in the next door apartment, it's just I'm home again.
It's not
you
where
filthy
I thought that
bitches.
I don't like scrambled eggs, but when I go camping, that's the only time I do like scrambled eggs, because it's one of those like I'm in an environment that I enjoy, that it's not all the time, but it's one of those things that because I'm not at home and I can't control every little thing, I can control how scrambled eggs are made. And it's one of those like just comfort things that, well, what are we talking? Cozy, comfort, whatever. It's one of those things that I can always rely on and then come back to and say, this is, will be a constant. And of course, you're bringing up the hotel thing where you're not always comfortable. I'm always in my sleeping bag when I'm camping. So everywhere I go, whether site to site or whatever, I'm always going to be comfortable in that situation. So it's that level of comfort that you can always come back to. And so, yeah, there's a lot of games. Then I play a lot of tavern games. I love those tavern games. They're all like a little different. They have their little things. So some of them are more Stardew like. Some of them are more like how do you like first person run this thing, and some of them are isometric, and they all have their little takes on them. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, how do I run this like little tavern thing? And it's really, really neat for me. And that's definitely another type of game that I like to come back to. I made a whole video on like some of the best tavern games out there and the ones that are coming out. So on my own channel. So I do, I can practice what I preach. I do love that stuff.
Brady, that's where you're hitting that line with a certain number of those tavern games where comfort and cozy sort of cross over, and you're finding your comfort game in those cozy games. I think a lot of people will probably have that because they are made to make you feel at ease. They are made to feel comfortable. That hotel room that you stayed in where you're now comfortable on day 3 and day 4, well, if it's a shit hotel, after 7 days, you're probably still not quite comfortable. You're still a bit unnerved because there's no lock on the door and everything's a bit off. So if a game is inclined to give you that experience, it only makes sense that you're going to become comfortable with it a lot quicker than a game without that. And my version of this would be something like Truck Simulator. And it's the ability to, well, first of all, I know nothing's bad's going to happen. The NPC cars are awful. They drive where they want and you will be crashed into, but nothing bad's going to happen. You push the repair button and it's done. But I can customize my cab and I can put a little doll there and I can change my wheel and truck's mine and I can put curtains there and just little things like that let you have full control over the environment in the knowledge that nothing is going to happen. And you spend enough time in these areas because they're built in a way that makes you want to spend time in them, that you just become comfortable and you just become relaxed. And I think all of the games we've mentioned so far as well, like you don't really have an immediate goal. You have a goal that you can very much postpone. Like, I can do that later. I think it's why Outer Wilds, it's difficult to say it's ever comfy, because even though it's a very comforting game in many ways, you've still got that time limit that's just taking place in the background. And it's not on the screen, but you're always aware that at some point those piano chords are going to start, and it's not going to be long, and then I can be back where I was, and I'm going to get that big blast. And I think a game, if it has anything like that, it almost precludes itself from becoming truly comfortable in that sense.
Can you change the wheels on your truck simulator?
You change all you want, boy.
Like the driving wheel, the steering wheel?
You can get all different cabs, so the whole thing could be different.
Does it have the one with the wheel on a wheel? You know what I'm talking about?
What?
It's a little wheel on your steering wheel, and you use that and you rotate that instead of like
sounds dumb. I guarantee you, Legion's putting this as a full screen screenshot though in the podcast video episode. No, but I'm googling it now, and I'm wondering why I don't have it yet.
Yeah, I had two uncles that were truck drivers, and it's something I saw. They didn't have one, but I saw it every once in a while.
That's cool.
It's funny that I think you mentioned kind of what makes these games comforting for us is almost this lack of consequence. We seem to embrace the grinding aspect. Like, even if I screw up in grinding, like, I'm not losing the game. I'm not restarting at the very beginning. I'm just, I have to do more grinding to compensate for the fact that I just screwed up. Big deal. And I think it's that for me in a lot of these games. It's the fact that there is either no real way for me to fail, or that I know the game so well that I'm not going to. So like in Mass Effect, Legion and I still, we treat that as a comfort game. We go back and replay it. We still play on insanity, but it's still the comfort because it's Mass Effect. It's a game we have thousands of hours in. We know to the point that like maybe we'll die in a fight, but it's never going to be like this is impossible. It was like, I screwed up and I'll just load the autosave and we'll just do it again. No big deal. But like at no point am I going to go back and play Mass Effect 1 on Insanity and be like, oh, I fucked up. We need to start over. Like it's never that serious. And I think that's a huge part of what makes these games comforting for me is the fact that like, even if it is something that does require effort on my part, at no point is that effort really going to feel like it was wasted.
Yeah. Well, that's even when you think about modern, let's go with the RPG grinding example. Most modern RPGs will also have an autosave system built in now anyway. So even if you die, it's not even as much as we used to have classically, where you would have a death, oh shit, I've got to go back to the last save point and carry on. Now there's normally nothing more than, I have to redo this fight, which lasts 15 seconds.
Yeah, I used to always go back to Baldur's Gate. I've played the original Baldur's Gate so many times, and there's something really comforting about the beginning of starting Baldur's Gate, especially with the whole, I mean, of course you have the whole Saravok throwing a guy off the roof. Yeah, I mean, that's not what we're talking about, but
it's not ideal.
Yeah.
So comforting.
I don't play it with all the mods that make it like super difficult as challenge runs. There's a lot of people who do it that way currently because, it's such an old game. You got to make it relevant somehow, right? But I still like the classic way of approaching it just because of the story. But you know how it like says nestled atop the cliffs of the Sword Coast or whatever it says. That is such a great way of introducing the whole game over and over and over because it's setting the stage. There's a big story going on, and you're here at the very beginning, right in front of the Candlekeep Inn, and you just get to, at the very first step, do you go into the inn? Do you walk around? Even from that point, it's not an open world, but it just feels like it based on the story that it's telling. There's so many different ways of approaching it. So that was always the game that I found really comfortable to come back to. Plus, it's such a really great story. And how many hours it's going to take you to get to the end game with a Melisande and everything else and Arenica. So that first step is a big journey. So it's really interesting.
Well, I think you dragged us onto a point which I think matters a lot with games like this. I think audio does more for this feeling than almost anything else. So you were saying about that, the monologue when you open up to the game is nestled atop the hill, yada, yada, yada. And you're right, you just, okay, I'm here now. I'm safe. And then the sound, I think, my hotel's as clean as an elven arse.
My hotel's as clean as an elven arse.
You hear that and you just, oh, hell yeah, I know this place. I've been here before. Yeah. This is so familiar. And my favorite parts of the Final Fantasy when I go back is hearing the songs again. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've been like gaming with a friend or something, or it's been streaming. And one of the songs I like is about to start, and I've said, listen to the music, listen, this bit's really good. And there's something special about that. And even Truck Simulator, as I think about it, the sort of thrum when you turn on the engine, and there's just a boom, 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 boom. It's comfort. You just feel relaxed, and now's the time. So I think audio does immense amounts for that feeling of just comfort.
Yeah. I think I probably didn't even realize that until very recently, going back and playing through I'm playing through Final Fantasy VII Remake right now, and hearing those songs from when I was a kid. I played Final Fantasy VII, the original, so much that the songs don't exist separately in my mind. There is just one continuous Final Fantasy soundtrack, and it's all one track that just transitions into different movements. And hearing them brought back in Remake in those moments where you might not expect to hear them, or you get to a jukebox or whatever, and you get to choose what song is playing. I think I realized how much those songs just became almost a part of me, to the point that like I'll hear Tifa's theme and I'm just like, oh, this takes me back to being a kid, and I feel safe again, and that childlike optimism that dies when you become an adult. I have that again. And I completely agree. Like, I think the music it kind of has this weirdly pervasive nature where it kind of seeps in a way that you're not conscious of. And then when you hear it years later, it just brings you back to that moment so effectively that it almost feels like a bit insidious as to like how deeply this can affect you in a way that you're not even aware of in the moment.
Yeah. Again, there's a reason that I've mentioned it before. Scorsese and Tarantino don't let anyone score their movies. They just pick songs they like and put them on top, because they know how much of a powerful effect it can have on you to have that song, even if you're not really hearing it. Because it just goes in, and then maybe on the second viewing, on the third viewing, you start to notice it more and more and more. I can remember playing through all of Persona 3, which is about 100 hours long, give or take. And I never really noticed how fucking good the battle music was. And then at one point, I just heard it in another context, and I already had that transported back to playing the game. Transported back to wanting to play the game, and realizing just that it was such a good song. And then the next time I played it, I got into my first fight, and I had the feeling of, oh, let's go, I'm back. Baby, we are here, and we are ready. It's got a special role to play. The absence of sound would do the same thing, but not in this context. I think for comfort, the absence of sound is probably going to leave you a bit more on edge than anything else.
Yeah.
But sound design for comfort is essential.
Yeah, I think that's why also Skyrim hits a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because Skyrim's music is phenomenal, and for the ambient parts where it comes into play, you have the nighttime type sounds, you have the dungeon type sounds. They're just perfect for those scenes, and it really fits in. And so some people, Skyrim is their comfort game. They come back to that over and over and over because they know it so well. It feels great. There's nothing, I mean, modding it is fine, but a lot of times you won't. If anything, they add, like the audio stuff I've done for Skyrim has been just adding extra nature sounds, like extra birds or extra things like that. And it actually
simply louder trees.
Simply louder trees. Go along with my simply bigger trees.
What sound does a tree make? Bark. Yeah, boy.
But if no one's there to hear it. So
welcome to the gamer's advocate.
If a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, is it still a cunt?
Those two jokes you made in the last 10 seconds are at opposite ends of the spectrum.
But yeah, I think Skyrim definitely for sure is one of those that, because especially like, because it's not that it's replayable, it's that, especially if you kind of get into the modding, it's like, I want to play the game just because I want to see it, because I added a new texture feature for the certain villages. And so everything else is the same, but you add that and it's just gives you a reason to want to play it again. And yeah, so Skyrim for a lot of people has been their comfort game, I think.
Well, I can give you a direct example. Someone we know, Kitsune, she's mentioned a few times that that's sort of what she does to relax on those nights where you can't quite drift off. She'll put on Skyrim, and I don't know if she listens to someone who talks a lot, if it's just the ambience of the game, I don't know. But it's something that she can put on just to relax when she can't. And something else that added to my realization of that recently was just looking for music just to listen to whilst working. And I'll try to like look for new things sometimes. And I was curious, like, what do work playlists on YouTube sound like? And it's mostly like lo-fi bollocks, really trash. But the amount of like work in Skyrim, like ambient videos there are, where it's like 45-minute videos of just Skyrim, and it'll be the game, so you get music now and again, you get just nature now and again, and they'll have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views of people who just find this so appealing to be in that world, and then do their studying or whatever it might be at the same time, and go down that rabbit hole. And there's loads like people who want to have the vibes from Novaria Station in Mass Effect, and they just want to hear those noises at work. And there's a whole field of people who are so comforted by that when they're doing things they don't want to, it's a thing that they can have on in the background just to make it more palatable.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want some soundscapes from Mass Effect, I've got a whole, I think I've got like 8 or 10 of them of just soundscapes, like hour to 3 hours worth. So
go on then.
Check out my channel.
I feel like Legion has plugged his channel more.
Fine,
in recent
I'm doing it now.
recordings
YouTube
than
Legion
ever
Grey.
before.
Yeah, I think I got an hour of rain on metal rooftops from, the Jack's base thing where you go back, and so there's like moments where like it's just raining on the outside of that building. I captured that for like an hour and a half or something.
1.5 hours ASMR Prague, rain and thunderstorm. I'm going to put this on and mute y'all motherfuckers.
But yeah. But yeah, it's nice to find those when you have them. And that's, again, why I also really love the Mass Effect. I already talked about it, but I mean.
Sorry, I've just realized. I was just going to say, what's a lovely sound. It's raining outside in real life. I can hear it.
You just started playing a muted video and you're like, oh, this is nice.
It's a lifelike.
They really nailed the sound here.
These
Foley guys are incredible.
I can see why they hired you, buddy.
Yeah, but even modern days, I know I mentioned Baldur's Gate before, but I think Banana can attest to like Baldur's Gate 3, especially the first act, which is done phenomenally well. It's just so easy to come back and say, you know what, if nothing else, I'll just do Act 1. And then maybe if you really like it, you kind of keep going. But Bananas, he just does Act 1. So
yeah. I mean, so my issue with Baldur's Gate 3 and the progression that Legion keeps kind of teasing me about is I have introduced a lot of people to the Baldur's Gate series through Baldur's Gate 3. I've joined in co-op playthroughs with friends who are not familiar with the series, and I think I've come to the realization that Baldur's Gate 3 is not a beginner game. It's not something that really does a good job of bringing new players in and providing them with all of the context to understand what's going on right away. It has the tutorial system and they give you like tooltips and hints and everything as you progress, but you almost need kind of that experienced D&D player to just be like, this is how it works. And once you kind of get that, I think the game overall becomes a lot more enjoyable, to the point where like I can have that kind of, session 1 multiplayer game with a friend where we play through a lot of Act 1 but never really complete it. And it gets them to that level of familiarity where they feel empowered to go start their own game and do a solo playthrough of Baldur's Gate. And that's where I have done Act 1 so many times, getting people to that level of comfort where they're like, you know what, I think I'm going to do my own playthrough now. And then we just never revisit the co-op playthrough and finish it. So I've done Act 1 a few hundred times and done Act 3 7 times. Like,
Thank you.
It's yeah.
Thank you for your service, Banana. You do great work.
But I definitely think Baldur's Gate 3 is another one that does the ambient sound very well.
Yeah.
The soundtrack, once you get out of the character creator, is solid. It's that one song in the character creator on loop. Add some variety. Maybe let me, cycle through other songs in the soundtrack. Choose something else.
Get rid of the character creator. We don't need it.
No.
Get rid of it.
I completely disagree with you on that one.
If it's tied with the song forever, get rid of it all.
You can always mute the music and then just turn it back on later. So
Yeah.
I'm not a pussy. Jesus. I'll live by the rules the game establishes.
You just said get rid of the character creator.
I know I said one thing,
shit.
but I meant another thing.
No, I might have said that and you might have heard that, but I didn't say that, okay?
Yeah. I might have said that. I meant exactly that, but also shut up.
Yeah, but now I've changed my mind.
Yeah.
It's been so long. Stop living in the past.
Yeah.
Move on.
Well, that's how I felt before somebody informed me that I was wrong.
It's how I felt before I realized it was possible to antagonize you. So I've completely changed my mind.
Most honest thing you've ever said.
I will say, for me, Baldur's Gate 3, I think it could never be a comfort game for me. And it's not the game itself. It's not anything to do with its story, its writing, etc. I think it's just the kind of game where there's so much choice that I couldn't ever truly just relax into it. And this would be the amount of choices you have in combat, the amount of choices for where do I go next, the choices of dialogue, how do I deal with this, how am I going to treat these companions, which are all amazing things, and it's great that the game has them. But I think it would just stop me ever being completely, ever truly just relaxed about it, because every playthrough I'd think, but what do I want to say to Karlach? But what about Gale this time? And there's just a few too many open-ended questions every time that I think it couldn't ever quite get to the hallowed point of comfort game for me. But a lot of my favorite games also wouldn't be comfort games for me. Mm-hmm. So it's no criticism. It's just for me, it wouldn't get into this category.
Yeah, I think Red Dead Redemption 2 or either the first one.
Oh, I should have put that.
Are not comfort games to me.
For me, they are.
I know. That's why it's like I know that the story's heavy and it's a lot of fun, but it's not a comfort game. It's not one I'm going to load up and say, you know what, I want to be a cowboy today. No, it's all right. It's pretty too meaty for me. So
you feed the crazy horse some hominy oats, and it gallops away with a whinny, or rather, hopefully he's heading home and not into the 12th dimension. Cool. All right, we did it, y'all. We did it. Let's go back to the town of Bourne Springs. Hell yeah. All right. Oh, let's step around the cow patties.
You mean to
you can do that in real life. I think it is, but in a very specific way. I'd sort of have to get to that first nice camp. I think it's called Horseshoe Overlook. It's been a few years now. Get me there and just let me roam around, do my thing. The story won't progress. Everyone's fine. Nothing goes wrong. We live here forever on this sort of like island from Lost. This is just where we are now, and this is where eternity is spent. But if I try and advance the story, yeah, it wouldn't be comfort. Too much stuff happens. Too many enemies start showing up. The story starts progressing in a way that's just not nice. It's not as much as The Last of Us 2, but it's not always a fun game. So much bad stuff happens. And bad stuff happens to good people. Good stuff happens to bad people. Yeah, in a very specific way, it could be a comfort game for me, but it's in that very strict parameters. I'm in this chapter at this point of the game. only doing hunting, for example.
I think this conversation has weirdly highlighted 2 points of a comfort experience for me that I have revisited multiple times. It's the idea of creating a character and then progressing to a point where it feels like they're equipped to go do their thing. So like I've done it. I've done that Baldur's Gate character creator, Baldur's Gate 1, 2, 3, any one of them. I've created hundreds of characters at this point. And it's a comforting experience every time because it gets to feel like I'm almost creating a new hero and just sending them out into the world. But I'll do that in Borderlands 2, and the character creator is not interesting in that one. It's very simplified, and it's not bad. That's not a criticism of the game. It's just not something they chose to prioritize. But once you kind of create the character and you play through the initial moments of Borderlands 2, it feels like I have to keep going until I get to Sanctuary. And then the first time I reach Sanctuary, it feels like I'm home. I made it. This feels safe again. This is the comforting moment. And then after that point, it's like, do I really want to keep going? Do I want to like, do I care to go explore all of these other areas? Or do I just kind of want to feel like there's this hero and I've put them in a position where they can meet up with all these other heroes and they'll probably save the world on their own. I don't need to invest anymore.
I can't tell you actually that how many times now I think about it. My real comfort game, I guess, is the Baldur's Gate 1 character menu, just clicking on reroll and trying to get above 95.
Yeah.
And then you miss one because you're going so fast.
You see the 97 flash by.
No.
I love where that's
I firmly
your
believe they should
threshold.
save
For me,
the
it
last
was like
5.
85. If I could roll a 90, I'd be like, I'm overpowered. This is game breaking.
Well, I can't play this now.
Yeah.
Finish character creator, send them off on their own merry way, and I'll go back in and roll my 62.
Well, so that's weirdly one of the stupid things I seem to enjoy doing in the original Baldur's Gate, because unlike Baldur's Gate 3, in the original Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, you could recruit companions and then tell them to fuck off. And they might disappear forever, or they might just go back to wherever they call home or they feel comfortable. And so in those situations where it's like, I've recruited this person, I don't think I'm going to bring them with me through the rest of the game. I'll give them the best gear I have available at the moment and just be like, there you go. Now you're fully equipped to go do your own story. Go have fun.
Be free.
Yeah. And it's a very stupid thing to do from a game sense, because now I don't have that equipment that I gave them. I could have just sold it and put my crew of 6 players in a better position to do their story. But I'm like, no, Nalia has her own shit going on. I'll give her some decent equipment.
But this is what certain games bring you to. They bring you to that point of these people matter in the game. And our time together mattered is a thing we talked about before when we whine about consequences. This action didn't have consequences in the game. A lot of consequences that you're going to feel long term are the way that you felt about the people in the game and the way you felt about these characters and the way you felt about those moments you spent together. And weirdly, you giving someone for example, your flail of time? No, what's it called?
Flail of Ages.
That's the one. You giving someone that as you send them on their merry old way is probably something that you would remember much, much longer than almost anything else the game gave you. And it's a moment that you created, but a moment that you could only have because the game did a convincing enough job in the first place to make you want to care for those characters and to even plant the seed of that idea in your head. So I think as soon as you find yourself doing that, it's almost evidence that you are playing a special game.
Yeah. When you go to the Nashkel mines, there's the end boss that's down there. He's he talks to you and stuff, and then he surrounds you with a bunch of enemies like kobolds and stuff. But there is a mage that's down there that's being kept as captive. And more oftentimes than not, I'll go ahead and get hit. It's a special weapon that only he can use. And so it's called a Moonblade, and you give that to Zan. You give it to Zan, and sometimes I'll just like put him in the party just to give him the Moonblade.
Yeah.
And then I take him out just as quickly because I'm not going to use him again. But at least I feel like I gave him what he needed to succeed in whatever he does after me, right?
Yeah. He's one of two characters I do that with, where it's like, I'll recruit you for about 45 seconds just so that you can be a better version of yourself when I send you back out into the world. And I'll do that with Zan. I'll recruit him. We'll leave. I'll get back to Nashville and I'll be like, all right, see you. Bye. We're done. And then I'll do that with Yeslik. I'll go into Cloakwood with 5 people on my team so I can recruit Yeslik. And then I'll go travel back to Baragos and go, this is where you live now. Bye forever.
And all you've done, really, is you've gone in, you've activated a few scripts, you've come back out, and you've essentially just deactivated that character. They now no longer exist. But you have a canon for them, and you have a story for them. Which is perfect.
Yeah. And that's what the comfort game can do because you're familiar with the game. You know, you know that next time you fire it up, he's going to be there again anyway or whatever, but you're familiar enough with the game that you know the outcomes of your consequences. And so you don't have that reservation of like, what if, you know, so. Mm-hmm.
I wondered how you felt about a different category of comfort games. And this is, for me, just multiplayer as a whole. It's a very different kind of comfort because it's more about the comfort you're getting from being with your friends, for example. But there's the group that I play Phasmophobia with now. I don't really give a fuck that we're playing Phasmophobia. Which, weirdly enough, because it's such a game in the first place, is kind of perfect for this. You know, it's almost like painting on a blank canvas. But the time that you get to spend with the other people whilst playing it is what makes it entirely worthwhile, and what makes me look forward to it each week, and what makes it feel so comfortable. And the other option I had, because I thought it's just so much more intense than Phasmo, but it still feels like a comfortable place to go with this group, is Helldivers. Like, when I sit down and play Helldivers with the group that I would play Helldivers with, it feels like the most comfortable place in the world, despite what's happening, despite the screaming, the
nothing
explosion.
about that game is comforting.
No, but because it's multiplayer specifically, it can be comfortable.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly it. As you were talking about that, I was thinking of like my comfort multiplayer game. It's Left 4 Dead 2. There's nothing comforting about that game. You are in
even the
zombie
title.
apocalypse. Yeah, it is a dark, depressing scenario that I am willingly throwing myself into, and I'll play it with friends. And like my friends are busy. They're not professional gamers. They're not people who are doing this day in, day out. So we come back to it and we fail a lot. It's been 3 months since the last time we played or whatever. I forget basic mechanics. We struggle, and it's still a comforting experience because even though we're like not even doing that well, we're getting killed by zombies on a regular basis. It's my comfort game with these people. I go back with this group and we replay this game from 20 years ago, and it's horrific and nightmarish and nobody survives, and I have a great time.
And well, this is what's always just so difficult to codify and quantify about the idea of a comfort game, is what makes it, because nothing about Helldivers should fit into the comfort field. Nothing about Left 4 Dead 2, but now you insert this variable of who are you playing with, and all of a sudden it's the most comforting place in the world. At the same time, I've played Overcooked with people I love, and I hate it. And there's nothing comfortable about that, because just the environment that it builds between you is different. And you're not comfortable in the same way, because there's that feeling of stress and tension, which there is in Helldivers too. I don't understand why it feels so different. I mean, I do in that case. It's because Helldivers 2 makes you stressed at the aliens. Overcooked makes you stressed at your friend. Yeah. It's a different dynamic.
God damn it, I said bacon, not lettuce. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Why aren't you chopping?
Yeah.
And it's just interesting how the game that you will feel so attached to, the game you'll feel comfort with, can be such a left field choice.
Yeah.
Because something lines up. The other one for me was I played it twice. It's not an online game. It's Resident Evil 3. Something about Resident Evil 3, because I know where all the enemies are going to be. Yeah. It's always going to be the same every time. It's a spooky mist, I think Legion would say. I know exactly what's going to happen. So I don't really have a plan in place. I don't go into it thinking I'm going to do this and I'm going to speedrun it. But I'm going into very familiar territory. It just so happens that territory is on fire, full of zombies, and there's a massive motherfucker that wants to eat me. But something about it feels comfortable. And in that case, it's the knowledge of where I am that feels comfortable.
Yeah, I think that's another good one. One of the ones that we've recently discussed, the Halo series. There are moments in that game that are very unnerving. They deliberately designed to make you feel uncomfortable. But a co-op playthrough of the Master Chief Collection is such a comforting experience for me. I'll just launch with my friend and be like, hey, let's do stupid stuff together for a long time. And it's this wonderful experience of like, Jenkins, you're not going to make it, buddy. Sorry.
And how much of that with Halo in this case, how much of that isn't the mechanics? How much of that isn't your friend? How much of that isn't knowledge? How much of that now is the secret nostalgia ingredient that's giving that to you? For me, for example, the one that I know is nostalgia, and I've just forgotten the name, which planet it is. It's Mass Effect 1. It's the planet where Rex can get killed. It's the planet with the nuclear bomb. Vermeer? Driving on the water area in that is so nice. Mm-hmm. Like I could drive around that all day, just in those, like the beachy territory. Something about it, that specific area. And I think it's because I can remember doing it when I was younger.
Guess who has a cinematic audio experience of that area too?
Yeah, we get it, Legion.
PewDiePie. PewDiePie is about to get that Gamers Advocate bump.
Yeah. He has 3 views.
3. Whoa. Whoa.
Let's go. Click you're welcome.
But yeah, it is definitely those like weird nostalgic elements, I think, that call you back to a time where like all you thought about was the positive in that moment. And that's kind of the way the nostalgia works. Because like I'll go back and play through those Halo campaigns with a buddy and hop into the back of the Warthog in those final missions, and it's just like, I'm trusting you not to drive off it. We're off the cliff, aren't we? God damn it. And it's still a comforting experience. Every time I know he's going to betray me. Every time I know he's going to do something funny that just screws both of us over on this run. And it's going to be like, all right, load it up again. We're doing it.
But that's like when you're playing Halo 2 is the one I would always remember. It's I'm just trying to remember the name. Oh, I can't remember the name. It doesn't matter. But you're playing Halo 2 and you go to a battlefield and there's like 2 planes available. You're like, all right, okay, let's just not get the planes immediately. Let's try and take some of these out so that we don't. Are you in? He's in the fucking plane.
Yep.
Oh, he's crashed. Okay.
And you just got shot by a wraith, so that's just one of those we don't have.
Why do I bother? Like,
yeah.
And it's the best thing.
Yeah. And it weirdly is. There's something comforting about that reliability of your friends not fucking listening to you.
Yeah, about that ever permanence of the incompetence and ignorance that just makes you think, I belong here.
Or just those moments where, like, I definitely remember playing through. This was Mass Effect, or this was Halo 3. And there's this sequence where you're fighting through a bunch of flood and you can pick up a flamethrower. And I just remember thinking like, oh, we're in confined spaces and there's 4 of us. No one pick up the flamethrower, and seeing somebody holding it in their hands every time, like, oh, God damn it.
Always a different person because no one fucking learns.
Yeah.
You mentioned simulator games before, and I've forgotten all the simulator games that I've played in the past, Civ City 2000, Civ City 3000, but I didn't really care for 3000 so much. But yeah, the first one, and especially 2000, played the hell out of that game. So much so I was at place where I used to work, we did 24-hour shifts, and they had a little PC there, and apparently somebody had loaded up a profile, and I looked at it, and they had every single part of the map was filled completely with the city. And I was like, how did they do this? And they had an airport, and the planes kept crashing into a building, but it was such an economy that it just really immediately repaired itself. Yeah, exactly.
So comforting.
Yeah, but it was just
the economy was so strong. Rebuild. Rebuild.
Yeah.
This will stimulate the construction sector.
Make SimCity great again. But for me, like, I had done Planet Coaster, and I've got like a couple thousand hours in Planet Coaster, and that's one it kind of really relives the whole, like, if you ever liked Legos, it's very much that Lego feel.
Everyone liked Lego.
Yeah. It definitely lets you do all that, because every time there's been like a DLC or something like that with it, it's not that everybody gets excited about like, oh, there's a new ride or anything. It's the pieces, because they give you all these little like 100 pieces or 200 pieces that you can now build this different thing using those pieces. And the style of it is like, if you were trying to do, I don't know, like a fantasy thing, you always had to like emulate what that fantasy setting would be, because they didn't have those type of pieces in the game. But then a fantasy piece theme comes out, and now you have those pieces, so it makes it easier. And then now you can use that to make it a different type. So yeah, it's basically Legos. So for me, that's definitely been a comfort game, because I mean, hell, I got all the hours in it, but it's never really been just the theme, because there is a theme park and a whole like simulator aspect of it. But for me, it's just really just building. I just like to build stuff in that game.
But that's where the great one and I think this one has something special about it, because almost everyone, it feels like, played it at some point, which is Roller Coaster Tycoon. Because there were so many ways to get it as well. I think I'm like the only person I know who had the box version, because people got it from cereal, they got it from like school book orders, got it copied from friends. And it was a big unifying experience for us all, because I think most of us had a chance to play it. No one had a system who couldn't run that thing, because of that assembly language wizardry of the guy who made it. And it was the Lego set that you couldn't run out of. I didn't have that much Lego, so at some point, if I'm building a theme park, I can't build it anymore. My roller coaster's done. It's just over. But Roller Coaster Tycoon, you can keep on going. And you can build the park of your dreams, and then when you're done with it, you can build another one. That would be one of the really special, I think, comfort games that most people, oddly enough, would probably be able to have as a comfort game. I think it was that widely played, that widely used, from a certain generation, of course. Does it hold up? I haven't played it in the last 20 years.
I've seen it. I've seen some people get into it, and they kind of like, what's neat about Roller Coaster Tycoon nowadays is that when people start getting into it, it's like, yeah, it's a little bit dated, but then they kind of start getting into it, and they're like, oh, okay, well, I can do this. And then they're like, oh, I can pop a balloon. You start finding these little things that make the game kind of like unique and quirky and interesting on its own. But I still say Planet Coaster is still superior version of that. It's definitely not just a spiritual.
It's how many years later, and not made by one guy in assembly.
Right. But you'd like Frontier. It's a UK company. So.
You were talking about you're talking about Roller Coaster Tycoon, and as you were kind of setting it up, I thought you were going to reference a different game, and it might be the Roller Coaster Tycoon for a more recent generation, Minecraft. I think
I've never played Minecraft.
Well, that explains why you didn't bring it up. I think that's
hold on. I understand.
It's probably a very similar.
Your logic is flawless.
Let me write this equation down.
So I think it's a very similar experience where it feels like everyone of a certain generation played Minecraft and has those comforting experiences, and like has those moments that they all kind of share. And I'd say to a certain degree, Minecraft is a comforting game for me. I definitely know with like the same group of gamers that I played Halo with, we'd play Minecraft and it'd be like, all right, we all kind of have that initial, first 3-day strategy in mind. We're all working together. And then suddenly somebody's off on the other side of the planet and they took all of our wool. And we're just like, all right, well, we all knew that was going to happen. let's just move on. And everybody just kind of branches off and does their own little thing for a bit. And, somebody's down at diamond level just mining in a straight line for an hour and a half, and you haven't heard a word from them the entirety. And it's still this weirdly comforting experience where, like, it's a game that facilitates just sharing time with your friends in a low stakes environment where you can just relax. And I think that's kind of what all of these comfort games have in common. It's that low stakes, just relax. There might be, a measure of success and failure, but it's never tremendous. It's never a huge deal. It's never, a game-breaking experience where like, oh no, we failed. Now I'm miserable. It's like, oh, we failed. Let's do it again immediately.
I was just actually thinking of and this is a point we haven't taken so far, and it was the idea of a producer or a specific studio who would make games that you would just feel a certain comfort with, and they don't have to be, for example, the guy who made Stardew Valley has made a deliberately sort of cozy and comfortable game. It doesn't have to be a studio who's making games with the intent to make you feel comfortable, but there's something about them that when you play their games, you just think, I am ready to settle in now, play a video game, in the way that BioWare did for us when we were a bit younger. And it was actually Lionhead Studios just came to mind, because I was just thinking fucking Fable, Black and White, and the movies. Just each of those games, I can just imagine I'm settling in now, and it's time to play. And I'm not going anywhere else. And maybe there's something special about that studio and Molyneux's ideas. We talked about Molyneux before, the flaws in his work. He still produces outstanding things that just don't quite meet the standard that he sets up for them. And I think, just Lionhead Studios, if you told me that tomorrow, I think Lionhead doesn't exist anymore, hasn't for a while, but if you told me tomorrow that they were making a new game and it was coming out, I think I would probably just block in a bunch of time and say, I'm 16 again, and it's time to play.
Yeah. The polar opposite of that for me has always been Obsidian. Obsidian is not a cozy game experience for me at any point. It's just, they make great games, but I've never been like, oh, it's an Obsidian game. I get to like relax from it. No, from the very beginning, I have to be thinking about it. Like, what are we doing here? So they're kind of the opposite of that.
That's when you find the game, isn't it? Where, and this isn't a bad thing, where their primary objective isn't necessarily fun. Whereas I think with Fable and Black and White, that was the main objective. It was, you are going to play this, and this is going to be fun. Every moment, every day, it's going to be stupid. It's going to be silly, but it's going to be fun. And there are games that don't do that. And that's for the better too, because I don't want just that. I don't want every game to be black and white. I don't need every game to have a fart joke. I kind of do. But I do want that, actually. I do want that. But I don't want every game to have the exact tone of Fable. I want some to have the tone of this war of mine. Because it's important that we do have that variety.
Yeah.
But they very specifically leaned into it.
It's funny because we talk about, the goal of those games. And if somebody told me that their comfort game was Alien Isolation, I'd be like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
I don't get it, and I don't want to know.
But I'm not disagreeing with you. If that's a game that you feel comfortable with, my guess is it's a game that you've replayed enough that you know in and out, and just that kind of familiarity is what gives you comfort with that game. And I can understand that. It's just like the game itself seems to be built around tension, and that is the exact opposite of comfort for me.
Before you said Minecraft, I thought you were going to say Power Wash Simulator, which...
Oh, yeah. That's definitely a cozy and comfort game for a lot of people.
I'm in the minority. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I know people love it. It's not a judgment. I just don't get it.
It's, you don't get it. It's fine. But what's funny is that when I
said with the tone of it's not fine.
No.
Fuck you.
With when it was when day one early access, I got it as a joke for my wife, and I said okay, because I keep up with what games are coming out and stuff, and I was like, oh, because she loves power washing in real life, So I was like, I want to give this for her. So she started playing. She was just thoroughly enjoying it. And I just assumed it was just because she likes power washing. She's like, no. You don't understand. It's really fun. You really like it. You ought to try it. I'm like, and then after like about a week and a half, I was like, okay, I'll fire it up. Let me see. And I got it. I totally understood. It was like, yeah, this is actually a little bit more than just power washing. There's a little bit more going on. And of course, they've made more and more. Because like I said, it was early access, so they came out with more and more maps and more things, and now it's fully fleshed out. Now it's like hugely well beloved, and yeah. But
yeah, I get it for other people. I don't get it for me. I can see the appeal. It's just the appeal that I believe is there is not what I'm looking for. Unless it's cleaning Seventh Heaven or the Giant Scorpion. That was great.
Yeah, you'd rather make it dirty. You don't want to clean it up.
Yeah, I'd rather just spread filth everywhere.
That checks out.
Yeah.
Can we just isolate that clip so I can send it to Wars?
Can we just isolate that clip so I can masturbate? No, you can't. Don't look
Yes,
away.
I can. You don't get to tell me what I can and can't do.
You're not my dad, right? Right?
Yeah, I just turned 50, so maybe.
Oh, Christ. Both of us sitting here doing the math. Is it possible?
This is
Biologically.
Calm daddy, not so much.
Calm daddy.
Calm baby.
Calm baby daddy.
That's a different one.
There's a lot of people that find the Dark Souls enthusiasts. They definitely go back to that because they can see their progression in that game, and it's obviously not meant to be as a cozy game, but because of the way they play it and their enthusiasm for it, can totally lend itself to that because it's that pattern and mechanics and getting into it, and like I said, it can be frustrating at first but once you know the movesets and you're proficient with your skill set, yeah. Could be a cozy game.
Yeah, Dark Souls 3, I can play it for comfort. There's some enemies that will challenge me, but not many. I've just played it so many times. I'm so used to it that I know if I play, I'm going to get rewarded a lot. The game is going to keep telling me, thumbs up, you did great, well done. And you have the chance to jump in and bring people online if you want to for a little while, or go and help people out. And that's something I really enjoy, actually, in terms of comfort, is the Dark Souls jumping into someone else's world and helping them beat a boss. Mm-hmm. And just doing the quick bow, the quick point at the fog door, go in, do a pose, and go back to your own world. And just that feeling of having helped someone out with something they might have been stuck on. That's a special moment as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I truly appreciate about Code Vein in my experience with those games. Code Vein doesn't have any of the PvP multiplayer that the Souls games do. It is exclusively cooperative, so you just join in to help somebody progress through their game. And I love that. It made the grind for the achievement in that game okay, because there's an achievement in Code Vein for getting 500 of these medals that you're rewarded with for supporting somebody in co-op. And you get maybe about 7 of them through a playthrough of a character. And then it's the other 493 you get by helping them beat bosses. And you get 1 per boss.
Right.
So it's ridiculous. But every time it feels good because you're like, I wonder if this person was really struggling with this boss. And now I've joined in and made it a much easier fight for them, or, maybe just pushed them over to the edge where they succeeded and they can move forward with the story now. Every time feels satisfying. So it makes that grind of going back and getting this 1 item per boss fight not so bad.
I've just thought of the ultimate comfort game. For me, the ultimate comfort game, and it has co-op, but it's exclusively co-op, so it's no PvP. Death Stranding, I think, is the perfect comfort game. If you avoid the BTs and the bad shit, it's just you walking from place to place in a beautiful world, and that's it.
Walking simulator.
Nothing.
Yep.
It's perfect. Death Stranding might be the perfect comfort game if played within the parameters of you're avoiding the combat, which you don't really have to even avoid. There's so little. And what you do now and again, just go and help someone else build their bridge, help someone else build their highway, go complete orders for people. Maybe the true comfort games are just like about helping others. It's just that sense of community just goes so far to building just a warm, fuzzy feeling inside you. Then maybe that's the secret to the ultimate comfort game. It just needs to be cooperative.
If it wasn't obvious before, I mean, it should be that when Com was saying that he's, his co-op people that he plays those other games, clearly were not us. Because he says, the people I play them with.
No. Although I was wondering at what point we're going to do our Halo campaign. There was a point earlier it felt like it. Yeah, me too, I'm in. Legion, you in?
Sure.
Oh, it didn't feel like it.
Yeah, no, it's not very believable, Legion.
Say it like you mean it. Oh, it's like a bloody primary school teacher. I can't hear you, Legion. Say it again.
Well, for me, my biggest comfort is every week when we record with each other. That is by far my comfort game.
That just feels insincere.
Yeah. But I appreciate everybody being here today. Thank you very much, Com. Thank you very much, Banana.
On that note of me telling Legion that he's lying to us when he says he enjoys being here, let's call it an episode.
End it.
We will have that discussion after stream. But
sorry to cut this episode short, but we do have some issues to discuss.
Going back to that teacher feeling. See me after class.
But yes, like the episode if you like it.
Sorry, I'm just going to tell you. I once got a see me after class from a teacher because I slapped his bum with a plastic ruler in the middle of class. But to be fair, you can't lean over in front of a 12-year-old child who's got a ruler in his hand in a room where everyone can see me. You can't do that and not expect whack right on the arse cheek.
He just didn't like the fact that it was plastic. He wanted the wooden one.
He wanted the wooden, obviously. Yeah. But the plastic one's got whip. I always just remember the way he just stood up and just said, just get out. No yelling, no just get out. Okay, well, you got me.
You know what you did.
I just love the explanation you gave. Like, you can't do that in front of a 12-year-old child. Meanwhile, when I was 12 years old, you absolutely could, and I wouldn't think twice. I'd just be like, all right, whatever. You can't do that in front of Cobbs specifically.
It was a different world over there. Yeah. Now, no way.
Yeah, let's not pretend that the number 12 had any significance in this story.
Where's my fucking ruler? I didn't have one. Oh, well.
So just keep that in mind at ComCon. Do not bend over in front of Com because he will smack you.
Nothing terrible is going to happen. It's just a slap on the butt with a ruler.
Yeah, that's why he keeps one on the side of his desk at all times, just in case. You never know.
Com hasn't had to draw a straight line or measure anything in decades, but he's always got that ruler.
3 or 4 on the wall. The 15-inch wood, 30-inch plastic. 30-inch plastic, 6-inch wood, 12-inch plastic. My apologies. And this one's got all the kings of England on it.
Little marks.
That's where we call it an episode.
Yeah, that's where we call it.
Well, appreciate everybody being here. Like it if you like it. Subscribe and comment, of course. But we will check you guys later. Yeah, no, we're not. We'll check you all later. Bye-bye.